For 5 years, my sister had been quietly siphoning every single dollar of my allowance. At a family dinner, I finally handed my grandfather the undeniable proof of her deception. What unfolded next didn't just cause a scene. It tore our family to its very foundations. Earlier that day, in a sterile office that smelled of paper and faint coffee, I passed a thick folder across a polished desk to a lawyer named Olivia. The folder contained a curated history of betrayal, call logs, damning emails, and years of financial statements. She didn't even flinch. She simply looked up at me and said, "This is both simple and complicated." At that moment, I knew this was far more than a sibling squabble over money. It was a calculated theft, masterfully disguised as family love. Olivia's next words chilled me. "Legally, this is fraud. Practically, well, it's family." My name is Ethan. At 30 years old, I am the eldest child, and my life is a testament to the grind. I juggle 3 jobs to stay afloat. My mornings begin in the cold, cavernous space of a warehouse, loading trucks before the sun is fully up. My afternoons are spent as a property manager's handyman, fixing everything from faulty thermostats to wobbly office chairs. And because a single income is no match for the cost of living, my nights are spent delivering food, a lonely cycle of headlights and doorsteps. I reside in a small studio apartment above a nail salon, the scent of acetone a constant companion, located conveniently near a bus stop of that particular magnitude. My life is governed by a breathing spreadsheet on my phone, its 4 tabs a stark summary of my existence: gas, food, rent, and surprise. Every single month, without fail, the surprise tab wins. My younger sister, Isabella, who is 27, is the family's designated star, the plant that always gets the sunniest window. She's busy building a reputation, or as our mother calls it, her brand, which seems to consist mainly of unboxing videos and a wardrobe of pastel blazers. She speaks in affirmations she picked up from podcasts. If she's late on a bill, it's simply the universe's timing. If I'm late, it's because I'm too stubborn to ask for help. Our grandfather is Arthur King. Yes, exactly like the legend, and he has the fortune to match. He started with a single, humble hardware store and methodically built a small empire of storage facilities and rental properties. He's a man of contradictions, wearing a watch that could buy a car alongside a pair of boots older than I am. Holidays at his house were always a lesson in this paradox. We drank from crystal glasses, but ate off paper plates. That Friday, he hosted one of his signature family dinners. The long table was laden with roast chicken and green beans glistening with an excessive amount of butter. The cousins were there, and the cousins' children, a cacophony of family life. Despite my most diligent scrubbing, I still had a line of grease under my fingernails from my warehouse shift. As my grandfather pulled me into a hug at the door, he said, loud enough for half the room to hear, "I hope you're having fun with your $7,000 allowance." My brain screeched to a halt. "My what?" "Your stipend," he repeated, his tone as casual as if he were discussing the weather. "Started it for you and Isabella back in 2019. $7,000 a month each to give you kids a runway." I stood there, holding a casserole dish I couldn't really afford to make, and I completely forgot how my hands were supposed to work. My face didn't know what expression to make, so I just laughed, a hollow, confused sound. "I'm currently working 3 jobs," I said, my voice thin. I haven't even window shopped for a new pair of boots, let alone anything else. A fork clattered onto a plate somewhere down the table. The sharp clink seemed to echo in the sudden silence. My mother shot me a glare from her position near the stove, a look that clearly said I had just broken the unspoken family script. "Don't start," she warned. "Your grandfather is trying to have a nice evening." Isabella glided over to Grandfather Arthur, touching his sleeve with a practiced gentleness, cooing like a concerned nurse. "He knows how Ethan is," she added softly. "He dislikes accepting assistance." I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. "I would love to accept assistance. The problem is, I've never actually encountered it." The space between my grandfather's eyebrows slowly creased. "What do you mean, you haven't encountered it?" I pulled out my phone. The transaction history on my banking app was a grim graveyard of minuscule sums and outgoing payments. I navigated through 3 old, dusty email inboxes until I found the login for his foundation, which I had only gained access to last month after a frustrating bureaucratic battle. I found the disbursements tab and started scrolling. Then I handed him the phone. Each line item was identical: monthly assistance recipient, E. King. Each entry detailed the coordinator's updated routing instructions. And at the bottom, a masked account number ending in 4 digits that I knew by heart, because I had sent money to that very account dozens of times over the years. It was Isabella's. I watched my grandfather's face as he processed the information. He's not a fast reader, he's a meticulous one. He finally looked up at me, his eyes searching mine. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor inside me. "I've been paying for new tires with store-brand cereal. If this is a joke, it's incredibly immersive." He set the phone down on the table as if it were burning hot. The lively chatter of the dinner party died, the way a classroom falls silent when the principal walks in unannounced. My mother reached for the phone, but I held it back. Isabella smoothed her hair, her voice a soft murmur. "I had assumed we wouldn't be discussing finances tonight." I retorted. "I had assumed we weren't rerouting them." My own voice astonished me. It was quiet, but it was cold as steel. Grandfather Arthur stood up, his presence commanding the room. "Who authorized this routing change?" "Arthur, sit down," my mother urged. "We're not doing this." "Isabella," he said, and the single word felt heavy, like a stone. She held up her hands in a placating gesture. "Let's all just take a deep breath." There was a simple miscommunication. The coordinator thought having a single landing spot for the household would be easier. "What household?" I demanded. She said the word family as if it were an item on an expense report. Grandfather Arthur looked directly at me. "When did you find this out?" 30 seconds ago, I answered, but then corrected myself because honesty is a hard habit to break. "I had my suspicions about a month ago. I requested the statements. They arrived today." The atmosphere in the room was thick and charged, like the air just before a lightning strike. A young cousin, Alois, muttered, "What's an allowance?" and was quickly shushed by her father. Someone turned the TV on, muted, as if the flickering images of a baseball game could somehow erase the unfolding drama. Dinner tried to restart, but it was a failure. My body, still on autopilot, went through the motions of politeness. I ate 2 green beans. Each bite tasted like ash and paper. At 9:14 p.m., my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed a number with the bank's area code. My first instinct was to ignore it to avoid any more commotion. but something compelled me to answer. "Mr. King," a crisp voice said, "this is Ms. Jacobs from Franklin Trust. We're calling to confirm an outgoing wire request and a beneficiary change on your family account. The request is labeled as urgent. Can you authorize this?" My blood ran cold. I looked across the table at my sister, who was pretending to carve a slice of pie that didn't need cutting. "Give me the request name," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She told me the name of the LLC. Isabella's LLC. I knew in that moment that whatever happened next, there would be no more silence. This wasn't just about a foundation or a series of zeros on a screen. This had started a long, long time ago. When I was 12, Isabella would steal change from my desk to buy lip gloss. When I complained, Mom told me, "She's just learning." When I insisted on getting it back, Mom gave me a lecture on the importance of sharing. When I was 16, I spent my weekends working at my grandfather's storage lot, busting my knuckles to earn enough for a beat-up old Honda. I changed my own oil and kept my receipts in a shoebox because, as my grandfather taught me, I enjoyed the deep satisfaction of accomplishment. For her 17th birthday, Isabella was gifted our mother's old SUV because girls need to be safe. 2 months later, she wrapped it around a telephone pole. Mom's reaction was a dismissive, "These things happen." When I got a minor scrape on my bumper, I was told, "You're so reckless." I managed 1 semester at a community college before the harsh reality of bills called me back to the workforce. I learned the precise weight of a pallet from the complaints of my own back while operating forklifts. Isabella, after dabbling in 3 different majors, took a gap year to find herself, which eventually led to creating content. A pursuit that is either a legitimate career or a hobby, depending entirely on your relationship with her. In our family, money was treated like the weather. For Isabella, the clouds always parted just when she needed them to. For me, I was consistently told to bring an umbrella. I vividly remember that dinner back in 2019 when Grandfather Arthur announced the allowances. He called it a runway, his voice filled with pride. "So you too can avoid making the same mistakes I did." Mom beamed with approval. Isabella cried performative tears and immediately posted a selfie with a caption overflowing with gratitude. When I got home, I added a new line to my budgeting spreadsheet. "If this is real." I didn't enter a number. It felt too much like wishing out loud. The first month, nothing arrived. "There's probably a delay," I told myself. The second month, still nothing. The third, the same. When I brought it up with Mom, she brushed me off. "Don't bother him, he's a busy man. Besides, Isabella is swamped right now. Can you help her move some boxes?" I did exactly that. When I texted Isabella, "Hey, did Grandpa ever?" the message was left on read. Every 3 months, the foundation sent out emails with impact reports. It turned out they had a different email address on file for me. An old college account I hadn't accessed since its password expired years ago. I never received them. "I'll forward you the important stuff," Isabella had promised, but nothing of consequence ever found its way to my inbox. Meanwhile, my life became a relentless exercise in arithmetic. I bought groceries after 9 p.m. because that's when the store marked down the meat. I changed my oil in my friend's driveway to save on labor costs. The soles of my work boots wore so thin they might as well have been saying hello to the pavement. The fact that the surprise tab on my spreadsheet kept winning forced me to take a second job. and then a third when the price of gas started behaving like a premium subscription service. I didn't feel ashamed. I just felt bone-deep exhausted. Isabella would refer to my life as hustle culture, as if it were some kind of moral failing. "You could scale if you just stopped thinking so small," she'd say with a dismissive wave of her hand. Then she'd ask if I could cover the security deposit on her new apartment after an Airbnb collaboration fell through. "Ethan, be generous," my mother would chime in. "Your sister is building something that will benefit all of us." And I, caught in the web, would always help. I bought my aunt's prescription when her credit card was declined. I sent Mom Bridge grocery money via Venmo. "Just until Friday," I'd tell myself, as if Friday were a dependable person we were all waiting to meet. This, I rationalized, was what community felt like. Then I'd go back to the warehouse and stack boxes that held no interest in my personal story. The first concrete clue about the foundation arrived in April, a letter from Franklin Trust addressed to me, Annual Beneficiary Certification. It read, "Please confirm your contact information for your monthly distribution." My distribution. The words seemed to belong to another person's life. I dialed the number. "Cool," I said, trying to sound casual. "Where is it?" A polite voice on the other end replied, "Sir, our records show you as an active beneficiary since January 2019. It appears the routing was updated by your family coordinator, Mrs. King, that's Mom, to a central household account." My stomach plummeted so fast I literally had to sit down. I thanked the stranger and immediately called my mother. "Hey," I began, "we need to talk about something logistical." "I'm at Pilates," she said, as if that were a complete answer. "You rerouted my allowance," I stated, cutting through the excuses. She sighed, a sound heavy with annoyance. "What an ugly word. Ethan, you didn't need it. You always said you were fine. I put it where it could do the most good." The most good for who? For the family. Isabella was launching her brand. You know you're stable, and your grandfather said it was for you and your sister. "That end matters," I shot back. "It matters that I never agreed to this. It matters that you never told me." "You and your little contracts," she scoffed. "You've always been so rigid." I hung up before I could say something I couldn't retract. I called the foundation back and insisted they update my email address. "The grantor is your grandfather," they explained. "We need approval from your coordinator." They continued, "Or from the grantor himself." I didn't call my grandfather that night. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint the man who had taught me how to check my own oil, the man who had promised me I wouldn't have to hurt my back as much as he had. The people in between had built a toll booth with my name on it, and I wasn't ready to tell him about the tolls I'd been unknowingly paying. So I did what I always do when I need to be bold later. I gathered evidence. I requested statements. I pulled my credit report. I logged into every dormant email account I could remember. I found the threads. Routing adjusted. Glad this is simplified now. Household wins. Messages where the coordinator enthusiastically confirmed changes I never saw, always CCing Mom and Isabella. Never me. The subject lines bore my name like a sticker on a package I never got to open. Meanwhile, Isabella's online presence, fueled by my allowance, was flourishing. A trip where the caption said pool day but the location tag screamed work trip. A new laptop. A new phone. A post celebrating the grind while holding a handbag that cost more than a month of my rent. I don't inherently dislike my sister, but I was starting to, so I stopped looking. And then came the dinner. My grandfather's hug. "Hope you're enjoying your $7,000 a month allowance." The line that landed with the weight of an invoice. The room falling silent when I revealed the truth. Me showing him the masked account statement on my phone, his lips tightening into a thin, hard line. And then, after a few miserable bites of a dinner that was no longer a celebration, my phone buzzing with the bank's number. "We're calling to verify a beneficiary change and an outbound wire request on your family account," the voice said. "It's marked urgent." I asked for the details. "The request is for Serafina's Social LLC," she replied, a name I recognized from the invoices tucked inside a tote bag she owned. And here was the other crucial detail that no one knew. My grandfather had set up more than just a monthly allowance. There was a maturity clause. On my 30th birthday, which was last Tuesday, the principal of my portion of the fund became available for a one-time lump sum payout, provided I made a formal written request. I hadn't made that request. Someone else had. "Do you authorize a wire for $250,000 to Serafina's Social LLC?" Ms. Jacobs from the bank asked. "No," I said, the word a release. I followed it with, "Freeze everything tied to my Social Security number pending an in-house fraud review." I looked up from the phone to see my family had resumed a strained conversation about pie, and I thought, if I keep treating this like bad weather, I am going to drown. My grandfather convened a small family meeting in his library, a setting that felt more like a scene from a sitcom than the slow-motion disaster it was. Leather chairs, shelves of unread books, and a fireplace that was never used. My mother sat with her arms crossed defensively. Isabella was absorbed in her phone, deliberately turning the volume up so every notification ping landed like a tiny punctuation mark in the tense silence. I stood because sitting felt smaller than the words I needed to say. Grandfather Arthur held my printed statements. "This says," he began, his voice level, "that every monthly distribution listed under E. King has been deposited into an account ending in 4187 since March of 2019. It was an administrative simplification," Mom interjected, as if testifying before a Senate committee. "We used a household account. Everything was shared." "I wasn't shared in," I said. "You were in spirit," Isabella piped up without looking away from her screen. "You just didn't notice because you were so busy with your projects, and I kept receipts. Rent when I was starting out, new equipment, flights to influencer conferences. It wasn't like I was just buying shoes." She was, in fact, wearing shoes I had seen online that cost as much as a used motorcycle. My grandfather turned his gaze to me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" For 1,000 small reasons that sounded pathetic when spoken aloud. Because I thought it would make me look greedy. Because my mother had conditioned me to feel like my own mouth was a courtroom where I was perpetually on the verge of being held in contempt. Because I was busy surviving and didn't want to be the problem. "I didn't know," I finally answered. "Not for sure, until I did." He gave a single, slow nod, like a judge who already knew the verdict. He put his phone on speaker and dialed Ms. Jacobs' number. "We need to cancel any pending beneficiary change requests and reverse any unauthorized wires, effective immediately," he stated. Ms. Jacobs was efficient. "We've placed a temporary hold on the outbound wire. We'll need written confirmation from the grantor and the beneficiary. We will also need to verify coordinator permissions." Mom sat forward. Arthur, don't be so theatrical. This is family. This is money, he countered, his voice like flint. And money makes most families worse. The practiced smile on Isabella's face finally cracked. You're going to humiliate me over a simple misunderstanding. You've been undermining your brother in installments for 5 years, he stated, his voice never rising but carrying immense weight. Mom made one last appeal. Ethan never asked for help. He's stubborn. I looked at my grandfather. I looked at my sister. I looked at my mother, the woman who taught me to treat receipts like prayers. I'm not asking now, I said. I'm setting a boundary. Isabella rolled her eyes. Oh my God, here come the therapy words. Grown-up words, I corrected. Here are some simpler ones. No more using my name. No more touching my money. No more rerouting. No more household unless I actually live in it. Grandfather Arthur nodded slowly, like a metronome. Isabella, you will repay every monthly amount that was diverted from Ethan's share, he declared. And you will provide him with a written accounting of every dollar you spent. We will then decide if any of it qualifies as a legitimate family expense. Spoiler alert, it won't. He then looked at my mother. You are removed as coordinator, effective immediately. Mom went completely pale. You don't mean that. I do, he said. You forgot what the money was for. And what was it for? She challenged. For a runway, he said, his voice quiet but firm. Not for a spectacle. Isabella's tone turned sharp. This isn't fairness, this is revenge. I shook my head, and the words that came out felt like a lock clicking shut. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. For the first time all night, my hands stopped trembling. Do you still want the monthly allowance? My grandfather asked, looking at me. Or the principal distribution, or both paused until you decide. Pause, I said immediately. I want to think like a person who isn't constantly drowning. Mom stood up and walked out, managing not to slam the door, which was its own form of protest. Isabella frantically texted someone 3 times, likely the person on the other end of that undeliverable wire. Grandfather Arthur placed a hand on my shoulder, the same way he does before tightening a final bolt. We'll make it right, he said. It won't be pretty, but it'll be right. Pretty has been the problem, I replied. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. There you are. The first 48 hours were a storm of notifications. Mom, you made your sister look bad in front of your grandfather. Isabella, you could have come to me first. Mom again. He's an old man. He doesn't understand how money moves these days. Isabella again. You are ruining my business. An unknown number. We would like to confirm that the wire transfer to Serafina's Social LLC has been canceled. Aunt Marable. I always said your mother was too loose with her spending. My cousin Thorne. Good for you. Don't tell anyone I said that. I silenced everyone except my boss, my grandfather, and the warehouse crew chat where we share pictures of dangerously stacked pallets. The math was still there, buzzing in my head, even after a long shower. I put on my good socks. I went to work. The toilets in Building C were having a bad day. Toilets don't care about family legacies. I felt a strange sense of relief. I had lunch with Olivia, the lawyer a friend recommended. She spoke in bullet points. I handed her the stack of documents, emails, statements, the bank's call log, a screenshot of Isabella's LLC, the note about the household account with my name on it, as if it were evidence in a trial. Legally, she said, turning the pages, this is identity misuse, unauthorized fund transfer, and a breach of grantor intent. Practically, it's family. I told her, I don't want a courtroom, I want a wall. We can build one, she confirmed. A demand letter for repayment of diverted funds directly into your new account, a new trust administrator. Fraud alerts on your credit, a directive to the foundation, no coordinator except you and the grantor. Also, passwords. Change them everywhere. I did exactly as she said. I enacted a credit freeze so absolute it probably froze my high school yearbook foe. I opened a new bank account. I created a new email. I removed my name from Mom's streaming services, which I had somehow been paying for since 2020. I canceled an old credit card that kept getting hit with household Amazon charges. Sometimes, closure means liberating your wallet from a future you never agreed to. Grandfather Arthur hired a forensic accountant, transforming my vague sense of injustice into a spreadsheet that would make a saint curse. For every month since March 2019, $7,000 under E. King went to account X40187. The notes column was a litany of expenses, office supplies, travel, branding costs. I had to sit down. I won't write the final number here because the number has been a character in this story for too long, and I refuse to give it any more lines. I received an email from Isabella with a 4-page PDF titled Apportionment. It was a list of justifications. Paid Mom's HOA when she was short. Our investment in my business benefits the family brand. Ethan never asked. The final line was a masterpiece of passive aggression. Let's be mature and not make this ugly. I forwarded it to Olivia. She, in turn, sent a letter to both Isabella and Mom that included phrases like misappropriation of funds, restitution, fiduciary duty, and my new personal favorite, cease and desist. When they protested, her response was simple. We are being adults. That's why this is in writing. The wall now had a door and it was labeled Pay Up. The final confrontations were predictable. Mom, you're taking food out of your sister's mouth. Me, she's been eating off my plate for 5 years. Mom, you're so ungrateful. Me, grateful for what, Mom? We provided for you as a family. Me, I provided for the family, read the statements. No response. Isabella tried a different tactic. Let's talk, just us, no lawyers. We met at a coffee shop that served drinks with too many adjectives. She wore sunglasses and a white blazer indoors, looking like someone who was deeply offended by dim lighting. She started with tears. I didn't steal, she declared. I allocated. You stole, I said calmly. You just don't understand what it takes to build something, she shot back. You should be proud I was putting our name out there. Our name, I asked, or my name? Like a singer abruptly changing keys, she wiped her eyes and switched to rage. You love being the victim, she snarled. You could have asked for rent money any time you wanted. I didn't want rent money, I said. I wanted my money. You're so small, she sneered. Maybe, I replied, but small pays its own bills. She stood up. This is a battle. No, I said, feeling a sense of finality. This is just accounting. That night, Grandfather Arthur called, his voice sounding old in a way I wasn't used to. I should have watched it closer, he said. I thought I was helping. Instead, I lit a match and walked away. You were helping, I told him. It just got repurposed. Your mother's out as coordinator, he said, as much to himself as to me. I'm putting a professional in her place. If you want the monthly allowance, it will go directly to you. If you want the principal, we'll do it by the book. If you want neither, I won't be offended. I want a fence, I said. Then I want to think. Good, he said, because the only time money is evil is when it's a secret. The following weeks were bumpy, but the bumping stopped when I pulled over to the side of the road. Isabella's wire transfer failed. She posted a black-and-white Instagram story with the caption, "Some people just don't like to see you win," and her followers flooded her with messages of support. She went on Instagram Live and spoke tearfully about family betrayal. I didn't watch. I deleted the screenshot a cousin sent me with the caption, "Lol." My mother's final grand gesture was a family dinner at her house, complete with a pot roast that tasted like the 1990s. I brought Olivia with me on Zoom. Mom hated it, but she's a hostess first and foremost, so she played along. Olivia laid out the numbers. "We are asking for a repayment plan for the diverted monthly distributions to Ethan's account within 30 days, she stated. "We are not asking for punitive damages. We are not filing a police report. We are not going to court provided you comply." Isabella let out a humorless laugh. "You can't squeeze blood from a stone," she said. Olivia didn't blink. "Good thing we're squeezing money from an account." Mom tried tears. "He's your brother," she said, as if I had forgotten. "I know," I replied. "That's why I'm not pressing charges. That's why I'm asking for a plan. That's why this isn't a scene. It's a line in the sand." We left with nothing signed, but everything had changed. 2 days later, a partial restitution transfer appeared in my new account. It wasn't from Isabella. It was from my grandfather. His text was simple. "She'll repay me. You're my grandson, not my bill collector." I sat on my kitchen floor, wrapped in a towel, and cried for 10 solid minutes, like a character in a movie who finally unclenches their jaw. My work got easier simply because I wasn't working to stay in one place. I still technically have 3 jobs, but the balance has shifted. I turned down an extra shift, and my manager didn't fire me. I bought new work boots because my feet hurt in the old ones. I took a full breath that didn't have a number attached to it. The late-night texts still come. The family group chats are still hurricanes of gossip. Some relatives still think this was all a game. But now there's a door in my mind, and it has a lock. On it a sign reads, "Mine." 5 weeks have passed. There's a professional administrator for the trust. I get emails with my name in them, addressed to me. The monthly allowance is still paused, a decision I made with my grandfather as I figure out who I am when I'm not just trying to stay afloat. The principal amount sits behind a wall of legal procedure, not under my sister's cursor where it belongs. I text Isabella when we need to coordinate about mom or holidays. I ignore her passive-aggressive flares, the "you made me look bad" coupons she tries to send. Mom sends me articles about forgiveness and pictures of sunsets. I heart them. I don't reply. I have taped 5 lines of text to the inside of my kitchen cabinet where I keep the coffee. I read them every morning. 1. I don't send money I can't afford to never see again. 2. Household is not a password to my name. 3. I don't explain math to people who prefer to believe in magic. 4. I don't answer financial questions by text, email, or carrier pigeon. 5. I don't apologize for locks on doors that should have been locked all along. It feels both stupid and powerful to read them out loud while I make eggs. Grandfather Arthur came by the other day with a tool bag and a knowing look. We fixed 3 wobbly chairs and 1 unsteady bookshelf together in comfortable silence. "I wanted you to have options," he said, breaking the quiet, "not obligations." "I wanted that too," I said. He tapped the newly stable table twice with the palm of his hand, his signal for a job well done. Good, he said. If you want a moral to this whole mess, it's boring, but it works. Don't pay for the story where you are both the villain and the sponsor. Don't call a pipeline a misunderstanding. And don't let a banner that says family cover a drawer full of stolen receipts. Build a fence, keep a door, use both. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. I'm still in the studio above the nail salon. The bus still sighs outside my window. I still have a tool bag in my trunk, but when my phone buzzes at 9:14 p.m., my heart doesn't seize up. If it's the bank, my finger is on the button. If it's family, the call goes to voicemail, as per the rules on my cabinet. I am not the allowance. I am not the sponsor. I am the one who decides what I will fund, with my money, with my time, and with my peace.